Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the latest of the JC tutorial videos. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about the new system for the EC135s. Today we are going to talk about the emergency float system. That's right, it's close to release. By the time this video comes out, it should be close to release or be ready to be released. So we're going to go ahead and have a full video covering installation, usage, everything with the 135. Today we have chosen the VIP version. It will work with all three versions of the 135, but today we're going to go ahead and demonstrate everything, installation and to use systems with the 135 VIP. So simply enough, we're going to res out the crate. Here we have it right here. We're going to click it. We're going to unpack everything to our inventory. Here's the note cards. If you want to read through the note cards, they're there for you to use. And we're going to go over here to our recents folder. This is our float kit folder. So we're going to take our float kit. We're going to go ahead and res it right next to our helicopter. This is our installation script. And all we do is drop that right on the helicopter. It'll ask up here if we can link objects for us. We're going to say yes. And then we're going to watch for the wall of text. No biggie, no biggie. All we do is just give it a second. Oh, that's right, I have it, so you can't see that stuff. So there's the giant wall of text that's going to come through. I forgot I had it open so you couldn't see all of local chat. There it is, and installation is done. Once you get these two lines right there, you are done with installation. Now, a few things we're going to cover about these. These are the float pads here, and then there's two more on the other side here and here. That's where the floats deploy from. So if you add additional things to your aircraft, make sure you note that the entire skid assembly changes once we add these floats. The equipment that is on the police version is not affected. It's all there, so you don't have to worry about anything with the police version. As you see, we do have a different set of skids than what we did on the VIP, and the 135 EMS will look very almost identical to this. So here we have the main cylinder valve. This cylinder holds all the compressed air that supplies to the floats to pop them up and fill them up. Now, what we have here is our cylinder pressure temperature limit. Float cylinder pressure limit. It shows you what PSI this cylinder can be at what temperature. Okay, this is something that you should know. You have to adjust. You can adjust. So if you want that realism factor, you can adjust that. You can also click on this cylinder to get the menu. We can refill if we need to adjust the amount of pressure that's in the tank. We can adjust the amount of pressure that is in this tank. And you can set it to novice mode if you want. Now, setting it to novice mode, you don't have to worry about this chart. You also don't have to worry about the gradual decay of pressure. Okay, we've built in a system to this that over time, even on aircraft that aren't resed, over time this pressure will begin to descend, and you may not have enough pressure to keep the aircraft floating with the amount of there's not enough air or HE2 in the system to keep those floats inflated enough to keep this aircraft above water. So on your pre-flight, it's something you do have to check for those of you that want realism and adjust the amount of pressure that is in the tank. For those of you that don't care about that, really don't want to have to worry about that, all you have to do, put it in novice mode and you will be fine. Okay? Refill will automatically refill the tank completely. Okay, back here on the back we have a remove before flight tag. This is a safety pin. Alright, this is for connected to the helo, so this is our safety. If we want to, you can click anywhere on this assembly and it'll remove that safety pin. That safety pin must be out for the floats to deploy. If you do forget to pull that safety pin before you fly, you will not be able to deploy these floats during flight. Now we're going to cam inside the cockpit here. This is the trigger right here, this big lever. That is the trigger to activate the floats. And as you locate right here, this is a second safety pin. Again, that second safety pin should be removed prior to flight over water. If you're just flying over land, then you're not having an issue. You don't need to worry about removing that. The POH says prior to flight over water, the interior safety pin should be removed. Okay? It's not really something you're going to be able to remove easily in flight. Let me adjust my sit height here to my actual sit height for the helicopter. See, you can see the trigger is easy enough to click and pull, but the safety pin is not something that's going to be easy to remove once you're in flight. So make sure you do in fact remove that prior to flight over water. Okay, here on the dash we have what's called the emergency float button. With power on, we can lift that safety and we can arm the floats. Arming those floats, this button here, as well as having both safeties removed, activates the automatic inflation when the system comes in contact with water. Okay? So if you don't want to have to worry about it, you don't know if maybe you won't be able to pull that in time while performing an auto rotation, it's something you don't want to worry about, remove both safeties and activate that arm switch. And then once you make contact with the water with your helicopter, the floats will deploy automatically. Now, something to note, the sensor for this would be located on the belly of the aircraft. So you are going to get pretty deep in the water before those floats will activate. Alright, you may, depending on how hard you hit the water, water may come all the way up here, and water may come all the way above the top of the aircraft, but with those three things active, the two safeties removed, and the automatic inflation activated on the dash, it will activate, and if you have the appropriate amount of pressure, it will bring the aircraft back up to the surface. Okay, so that's installation and basic operation of the float system. We're going to hop in here, we're going to start her up, we're going to take it off, and we're going to demonstrate both uses. Okay, we're going to demonstrate automatic inflation with a hover auto to the water. Okay, won't activate. All I'm going to do is put the engines on idle, perform a hover auto rotation, and once we make contact with the water, the floats will inflate by themselves and will rise right up to the surface. The second one we're going to do is we're going to do a regular auto rotation from 500 meters. And once we do that, we'll deploy our floats approximately 100 meters above the surface. We'll do our flare, we'll raise collective, and we'll come in and cushion into a nice landing while, excuse me, while we are over water and do it into the floats. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, hop in here, and we're going to go ahead and take off. We're going to fly just a few sims right over to the east, and we're going to do our hover auto rotation. So we're going to clear local traffic. Everybody know that we are clear. Yes, I'm using quick start because we're not here to do a tutorial video on how to start the aircraft. Just a quick note for everybody watching at home. If you were wondering why things are going to look a little different while I'm flying, for ease of flight, to get this video made easily for you guys, I do have two things turned off. I have translating tendencies and torque disabled in the realism menu while we are doing this video, just to make things a little bit easier, a little bit smoother while we're flying. Get us our nice HUD. Oops. There we go. Give it just a minute. Everything's starting up. Waiting on our RPMs to come up. We should be good. using my hood, but we'll just go ahead and attach one we already have. Alright, RPMs are climbing. So our engine gauges are green. So what you are going to note is that anti-torque is going to stay centered more than having to be over here because we're not having torque activated today. Clear left, clear right. Just waiting on those rotor RPMs to get to the green. And we will depart. So, things to make sure. Safety pin here is removed. Safety pin here is removed. And that is lit up, saying that the floats are armed. Actually, your version should actually have the word, there it is. It just wasn't loading. So, there we go, floats are armed. RPM's top of the green, no warning lights or horns, engine gauge is green, fuel sufficient. Clear around, clear above. Alright, give me 1 second here, I can't see my chat, which we don't want. There we go, switch to flight mode. Alright, flying control off. Alright, we don't need interactive cockpit because we are on auto. I'm going to auto inflate, so we're going to go ahead and pick up nice and gently. We're going to depart from the ramp. Yeah, look at SL's acting up. Ooh, that was weird. 1 second, I'll be right back, everybody. Alright, and we're back. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Just a little scripty error thing. So we've disabled that. I don't know what that was. I apologize for that. I hope it was as entertaining for you as it was for me when it happened. We'll call that one having bad track and balance. Alright, so we still do have our 2 things disabled. Alright, and RPM stop green, no warning lights, horns, engine gauge green, fuel sufficient, clear forward and about. So we're going to fly out just a couple of sims out here. Hopefully we don't have any issues on sim crossings. As you can see, we are armed. Both safety pins, we'll verify those are both removed before we execute the maneuver. And we'll go out just a couple of sims out here in the water. And we'll get nice and hover over the water. We'll put the engines on idle. We'll perform a hover auto rotation to the water and allow the automatic scripting to kick in and activate our floats. We'll do this from third person view, from a side angle of the helicopter, so y'all can get a good look at it all happening live as it's happening. Another aircraft line, another 135 coming in. Alright, this is good enough, so we're going to go ahead and descend, not that much. Drop below ETL as I loaded the collector, that was a little rough. Nice and gentle, come into the water. Let's see. It's a little bit high of a hover auto. Let's come down just a little bit more. Fine control on so that we can come down nice and gently. Come into a nice hover. I hate the way the waves move. Optical illusion that the aircraft is moving. Okay, now that we're stable. DIS. Wow, I can't type today. Alright, autopilot is disengaged. We're still on fine control. Still a little high up here. And lower that collector just a little bit. Come on down. Don't want to be too high above the water. This makes for a harder hover auto. Come on. 4 meters. So we are going to turn that on. So now we can go ahead. Lower collector. 23 meters. Alright, that should be higher, not low enough. Alright, so we're going to verify that everything is off. Okay, safety pin is removed. Safety pin is removed. And the arm button is on. That texture is just not loading for me. Doesn't want to load. So what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and put both engines into idle. Okay, the procedure, pedal, settle, raise. Engines go into idle. Fly right pedal to keep the nose straight, which we don't have to worry about. Torque is off. We'll allow the aircraft to settle to 1 foot. We're going to raise that collective to cushion our landing. We're going to leave fine control on so we're not raising too much so we don't balloon and go back up as we lose that rotational energy of our main rotor. And once about the water gets about the bottom of the aircraft, our floats will engage. And we will float on the surface. Alright, so we are going to remain in third person. Engines to idle in 3, 2, 1. Engines to idle, pedal, settle, raise collective, cushion the landing. Floats automatically deploy once they come in contact, once the belly of the aircraft comes in contact with the water. And as you can see, we had a full tank of floats, so we're going to sit here in a hover, just sit here on the deck. We will be floating, activate our ELT transponder, and wait for rescue. Alright, next step that we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to bring the engines back up to flight mode. Nope, number 4, nope, 5. 5 is flight mode. We'll bring our engines back up to flight. We'll pick up, we'll secure, we'll attempt to secure it. You're not supposed to be able to, but alright, so with the floats deployed, the aircraft is limited to 80 knots. Okay? Real life, that's what it is. With these aircraft, once these floats deploy, if you fly above 80 knots, you increase the drag so much that it's going to cause issues aerodynamically for the aircraft, as well as damage your floats. Here, if we fly above 100 knots, we're going to destroy the floats. They will rupture, which we will demonstrate at the end. But we're going to go ahead and bring the aircraft back up to a hover. We might have to go sit down on that little island right there to be able to repack. We're going to attempt to repack in flight once we come up into a nice hover, stable hover. Okay, simply click on the cylinder and repack so we can repack in flight. Okay, now that the cylinder is repacked, once you repack it, you do have to remove your safeties again. We're going to check. Okay, we're back at 6,000 psi. Not myself. There we go. We're going to remove my second safety. And we're going to make sure that the auto deploy is disabled, which it is. Alright, so now we are going to raise altitude. We're going to climb up 500 feet off of our aircraft indicator, not 500 meters, which a lot of you have been complaining that you glide way too far. That's because it's based off of 500 feet. on your HUD. So right here, when the 5 gets right about there. Alright, so what we'll have to do is we will have to click on that lever right there to deploy the floats. We're going to get into that channel right here. Continue to climb up 500 feet. We'll get into that channel and then we'll go ahead and perform an auto rotation. Okay, below 100 feet is when we will pop our floats. Prior, forward cyclic, ETL, 500 feet, lower collective, maintain 500 feet. So we're going to cross a couple of sims here. Hopefully we don't have any issues crossing those sims today. And just a little bit of left pedal there to center that. Alright, so we are going to, once we begin, excuse me, once we begin, we're going to go ahead, we'll be flying direct south, 500 feet. For this demonstration, we'll start at 90 knots, 90 knots where we're at. We'll enter our auto rotation between 60 and 80 knots. This is where we want to maintain our airspeed. So we're going to lower that collective all the way, apply aft cyclic. We would apply right pedal as needed to keep the nose straight, but we don't have to worry about that today. We're going to enter our glide. That aft cyclic is to allow us to set that 60 to 80 knot pitch attitude that we're going to be gliding at. 100 feet, we'll deploy the floats. 40 feet, aft cyclic. Begin our flare. Raise, roll, level, and the floats should catch us in the water. Alright, we are direct southbound. We are at 90 knots, 500 feet. We're going to take mouse look off so that we can go ahead and actually click. So about the center of this next sim, we're going to go ahead and deploy. Hopefully we don't hit any islands, everybody. I want to increase view distance just a little bit, so the next sim will res in. Increase my view distance a little more. I apologize for the choppiness. Trying to get the next, I want to have at least 2 sims in front of me res. There we go. Alright. I think we're going to wait until after. We'll enter in the sim with all the islands right here, because I think the sims after that are all water, no island. So we're going to enter in the center of the sim, so hopefully we land in the center of the next sim. Alright. To the snapback. There's the snapback. We're going to enter in 3, 2, 1. Lower collective, aft cyclic, right pedal, engines to idle. We're in our glide. 300 feet. After the sim crossing, we're going to deploy our floats. Waiting for the snap. There's the snap. Floats deployed. 40 feet. Aft cyclic. And raise collective. And we're floating on the surface. Doing an auto rotation to the water is a lot more forgiving. I feel bad for this guy in the boat that just like watched this helicopter fall out of the sky in front of him. Sorry. Doing an auto rotation to the water is a lot more forgiving than doing an auto rotation to land. So be prepared that if you do them to the water with the float system, that you're going to have a lot higher survivability rate than if you do them to the land, and you're gonna probably hit hard a lot of times. Even I still hit hard a lot of times. So that is all of that. We're gonna bring the engines back up to flight configurations. We're going to keep the aircraft camera outside, and I'm gonna show you what happens when you fly at too fast of a speed with your floats deployed. So ideally, real life situation, you deploy your floats, you get to the ground, you realize, oh, I didn't need to do an emergency landing to the ocean. So now you have to fly back to an airport with a mechanic that can properly repackage and repair damage to the floats. Well, to do that, you would have to fly at airspeeds below 80 knots. And here we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick up. I know there's a castle directly in front of us, so we're going to go ahead and raise collective a little bit more than normal so that we can continue to climb, forward cyclic, get our airspeed going there. So we're going to keep our airspeed below 80 knots. And as you can see, no issues here. We can fly this all the way back to our airport if we need to. We'll go find control and then increase our airspeed just a little bit. Find control on so we can increase airspeed just a little more. And go all the way up to our red line. I hope I'm high enough to fly over top of that castle. Just barely, but okay. I'm going to increase airspeed all the way up to 80 knots. Which we should be fine. We gave you guys a little bit of a buffer, I believe. Once you fly above 80 knots, there's the chance for them to break. And once you get to a certain point, they'll break for sure. So as we increase our airspeed above 80 knots, I apologize for the shaky cam. Not my fault. Blame SL. So as we get above 80 knots, the chance increases that they're going to break. Bring the camera in just a little bit. Keep increasing our airspeed. I have novice mode on, did I? Nope. Watch, of course, that's going to be the one thing that doesn't work today. Alright, we did some tweaks to it for the auto rotation because we were having some issues with the deflating or popping on the autos because we were moving fast, and it looks like it might have broke the popping. Alright, so just know that when the system comes out to you, flying above 80 knots has the chance to pop your floats, at which case they are popped. And you'll have to take them into a repair facility to repackage them. So, I hope you guys do enjoy the float video, even though the popping of the float didn't work during the video. I promise you it will work when you guys get the version of the helicopter. What's below me? Can you do a hover auto from here? We're going to try to do a hover auto from here. That's pretty far. Why the heck not? You're not supposed to do hover autos from this altitude, but why not end on a crash, right? Descending. Low rotor. Raise collective. And just in case you were wondering, damage is still turned on. So damage is still turned on. So we didn't die. Would have been a pretty rough landing. It probably would have maybe ripped the floats off. But alright guys, I hope you did enjoy the video. If you have any questions, as always, we're always in the Shergood Aviation group that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or concerns. And blue skies to everybody.